Hello everyone. So the next topic which we will be discussing here is about the neurons as a function. So what are neurons? What do you understand by the term neuron? Neurons, they are the fundamental unit of the nervous system that are specialized to transmit information to different parts of the body. Neurons, they are the building blocks of the nervous system. What they do is, what is their function? Their function is to receive and transmit the signals to different parts of the body. So they are carried in both the physical and as well as the electrical forms. Now, the introduction. That neurons, they are also known as the nerve cells. What they do is they send and receive signals from the brain. So as I have already told you that neurons, they are the basic and the fundamental unit of the nervous system. So nervous system also consists of brain. So what they do is they send and they receive the signals from the brain. Neurons can receive these signals via a root-like extension that are called as dendrites. So this is the figure of neuron is being depicted here, and there are further parts that are being depicted here. For example, dendrites are there. There is a cell body and exon. These three are the main parts of the neuron. There is a nucleus also, mycelium sheath, then exon terminal and nodes of granule. So the neurons, they vary in the shape and size and structure depending on their location and role. There are several types of neurons that facilitate the transmission of information. So there are sensory neurons that carry the information from the sensory receptor cells present throughout the body to the brain. Whereas there are some motor neurons which transmit the information from the brain to the muscle. So each neuron plays a different function. So there are interneurons which transmit the information between the different neurons in the body. So as I have told you that the neuron consists of the three different parts, that is the dendrite, the cell body and the exon. So we will be discussing all these three parts in detail. So first we will be discussing about the cell body, followed by exon and then the dendrite. So let's start with the cell body. So cell body, that is also known as the soma. So this cell body is the core of the neuron's core. The cell body, what it does, it carries the genetic material and it maintains the neuron structure and it provides the energy to drive the activities. Each neuron has a cell body with a nucleus. So as depicted in the previous diagram also, the neuron was having a nucleus in it. So it has a neuron has a nucleus, Golgi body, endoplasmic reticulum, mitochondria, and other components. So they are specialized organelles. So I have already told you about the organelles. Now it is enclosed by a membrane which protect both, and it will allow it to interact with its immediate surroundings. So this is the main function of the cell body. Now next I will be discussing is about the exon. So exon, what is it? It is a tube-like structure that carries the electrical impulses from the cell body to the exon terminal and then passes the impulse to another neuron. So this is what exon is. So it was also been depicted in the previous diagram that it was a long body and a tail-like structure which joins the cell body at a specialized junction called the exon hillock. Now, the mycelium was also depicted in the diagram. So there are many axons which are insulated with a fatty substance which is called as the mycelium. What mycelium do is they helps the axon to conduct an electrical signals. And neurons generally have one main axon. So they only have one main axon. Now comes the dendrites. So dendrites, they are the branch-like structures that receive the messages from other neurons and they allow the transmission of messages to the cell body. So dendrites, they are fibrous roots that branch out from the cell body. So it was being seen that after the cell body there were dendrites which was being mentioned that were branched out. So they are like antennas that receive and they process the signals from the exon to the other neurons. So there are various types of neurons such as sensory neurons, motor neurons, interneurons. So this is the main function of the dendrite. So there are neurons which can have more than one set of dendrites, which is known as the dendritic trees. So how many they generally have depend upon their role. For example, there are some of the cells which are known as the Purkinje cells, which are a special type of neuron which is present in the cerebellum. So these cells, they have highly specialized developed dendriticity and they allow them to receive thousands of signals. So this is the main function of dendrite. Now, the topic of our presentation was neuron as a function. So now we will be discussing the various functions of the neuron. So neurons, they are specialized cells of the nervous system as already discussed. So what they do is they transmit the signals throughout the body. So neurons, they have the long extensions that extend out from the cell body, which is called as the dendrites and the axons. Now, if I talk about dendrites, they are the extension of the neuron cell body or soma that will receive the signals and they conduct them towards the cell body. So the cell body extends into an axon which is covered by the mycelium sheath. So this the next function is the mycelium sheath is act as an insulator. So each of the part of the neuron they have a specific function to perform. So each of these functions has been discussed in detail in these slides. So mycelium sheath, what does it do? It acts as an insulator that prevents the short circuiting of in the neuron. There are small gaps in the mycelium sheath which are known as nodes and an impulse jumps from one node to another on its way of progression towards the axon terminal. So, at the terminal, depending upon the makeup of the neuron, the impulse is transmitted to the dendrite of the next neuron via a junction which is called as the synapse. So, that is called as a synapse. So, and in a chemical and electrical manner. So what are electrical synapses? So electrical synapses, they are when the two neurons they are conducted by a gap junction, it results in an electrical synapse. So these gaps include ion channels that will help in the direct transmission of a positive electrical signal. So they are much faster than chemical synapses. And if I talk about the chemical synapses, then it is the action potential which affects other neurons through a gap present between two neurons, which is known as the synapse. So the action potential is carried along the axon to post sympathetic ending that initiates the release of the chemical messengers, which is known as the neurotransmitters. So this was all about the neurons as the function. So we have discussed every part in detail. So what are the main parts of the neuron? What are its specific functions? And what are the overall functions of the neuron? So this was all about it. These are some of the references.